You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled Navigating Economic Recession and Financial Anxiety. Normally, or I had originally thought about doing only one episode on this, but I think I'm going to turn this into a two-part series because there's a deeper underlying reason why many people are having such a challenge. So for now, in this episode, we're going to talk about navigating economic recession and financial anxiety, and then there'll probably be another part to it next week. So if you would like to learn how to better manage yourself to navigate economic recession and financial anxiety, keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. You know, all of the bad news when it comes to the economies, changing global financial situations and all this, I don't watch or listen to a lot of news, but all you've got to do is open up the news, and I don't care which avenue it is. I don't care if it's CNN or Reuters or Fox or AP or whatever it might be, Facebook news, whatever, is that the news has so much written in the last couple of years, but mainly the last 18 months about economy. And then about a year and a half ago, the big belief system was, the U.S. is going to go into a recession. Now the belief system is, we avoided a recession last year, but now we're going to go into last year they were saying a soft landing recession. Now they're saying everywhere from a soft landing recession to medium landing to hard-hitting recession. And you see all these things wrapped up together: the housing markets, the economies, the US dollar, gold, silver, real estate, everything. And everywhere you look, it's all, again, about recession and inflation and possibly, which now they backed off from that, stagflation. It's about the formation and creation of BRICS, BRICS, which is a block of countries that agreed to no longer buy oil in dollars or trade in dollars. It's about gold and silver, how they're off the charts. It's about layoffs. It's about job market reports. There are so many indicators that to some degree reflect some resemblance of not an amazing economy. But the question is that I have for you is, how does all of this economic news affect you? Does it affect you at all? And be honest with yourself. Many people will say, no, it doesn't affect me. Most people will say, yes, it does affect me. You know, when I look at it at all levels, whether a person is struggling to pay their bills, which is a whole different ball of wax, or one of my friends that was looking at buying a brand new home, he wanted to have a home built. And this was about 6-9 months ago, a year ago. And then he said, no, I'm going to wait for a bit. And then he said, I'm going to wait again because I have this big $10 million check payday coming, and I'm going to wait for that. The point is I watched him make his economic decisions being a multimillionaire and making his economic decisions from that place, but really no differently than a person maybe making them from they're making $75,000 per year and they're worried about things. What I want to point out is they might be worried or concerned or frustrated with different things, but that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at, how does it affect either camp or any camp in the middle, how does it affect them and you emotionally? And as I said, does it affect you emotionally and how does it affect you emotionally? And then I want to ask you on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being really bad, how much are you affected by what's happening in the economy? The US political elections aren't, unfortunately, and I'm glad we're having them, but they're not what they used to be. The United States system is crumbling, but all social structures are crumbling. And if you listen to Gary Zukav and I talk the last couple of months, you may get some hint of that. But my brother-in-law, Don Javier, that I've worked with for 20 years, told me it's coming. And and my brother-in-law said, same thing Gary said, we're in it. We are in a crumbling of old social structures, political structures, and economic structures. So when I ask you how much it affects you emotionally about what's happening in the economy, another question to ask you is what values do you place on money, or what does money, here's a bigger one, what does money represent to you? Think about that. What does money represent to me? So many people get into that money represents security, which is not true because you've seen people lose money and they no longer have that air quote security. Most people relate money, which is where I want to go if I do a second episode, and I probably will. Most people equate money to happiness, meaning the more money that I have, then the more external things that I can collect and the happier that I will be. And I will be happy if I can go on a vacation. And I will be happy if I can do this, if I can do that. So what we want to look at here is what are your attachments to your stories about what you think money represents to you? Ponder that. So think for a moment about any fears you might have about money, inflation, the economy, what recession, whatever. Now, just take a step back and ask yourself, okay, and if you are, I'm afraid or I'm anxious about the economy. I'm anxious about the US dollar. I'm anxious about paying my mortgage. Now, again, as I said, we think this is essentially because of security and different things, but I've seen people actually hang on to those things and get more of them and let go of those and get less things or somewhere in the middle, but they're still happy. So the question to ask yourself is, of the stories that I tell, how are these stories reflective of my beliefs about money, what money is, and what it provides me? You know, I find it interesting. The more that we grow spiritually, and by the way, many years ago, I could very much say, if you have any fear and anxiety about money, I could say I could relate. That's not the case in my life anymore. Mainly because of my spiritual growth over the years. And I've recognized that we've all heard this, but many of us just can't get our mind around it. We've heard we come to the planet alone and we come with nothing. We leave the planet alone and we leave with nothing because we are infinite beings. But the question is okay, if I come with nothing and I leave with nothing and I'm an infinite being, the question is, how come you let so much of your finiteness, meaning your time on this planet, define your experience on this planet and control you relative to you being happy or not being happy in your experience on the planet? Where I'm going here is that your happiness is not related. Your peace of mind is not related to externals and in particular money and finances. But we make it that way because that's what we learn. Okay, I want to segue from the episode for just one moment. And I want to ask you, where were you most stuck in 2023? What things held you back the most? When I ask people, why they're not getting what they want in life, people often say, well, I was stuck with XYZ, or, and this may resonate with you, I feel stuck. If you're feeling stuck, one question I want you to ask yourself is, what is it costing me? What is it costing me to not resolve this and to battle being stuck? And when you add that up, whether it's money and especially in business, but in your health and your relationships, when you add that up, it's extremely costly to be stuck in life. Now, all this being said, I created a new challenge. I created it last year. Many thousands of people have gone through it, and it's called the Get Unstuck Challenge. Interesting, the name's all about getting unstuck. Now, in this challenge, it's a 9-day challenge, and I walk you through at a very profound, at a very spiritual, level, and even at a cosmic level. I walk you through who and how you're being as a being, meaning your presence on the planet. And when you understand that, when you understand the nature of you at a very deep level, now you might have heard me say be to have before, and that's more about 3D reality. Who do you have to be so you can do so you can have? But I'm talking, what does it mean to be? And then what is that power associated with that? When you understand that, you automatically get unstuck in life. This program, never offered it before to you guys. We're offering it now. I don't think we've offered it to the podcast and an ad. Maybe we have, maybe we have. I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter because we haven't offered it a lot if we have. But we're offering the Get Unstuck Challenge again. It's only $97. Thousands of people have been through it and they rave about the results they're getting. And I know that you will do the same thing. So again, ponder the question, what does it cost me? What am I giving up? What peace of mind? What happiness? What money? What relationships am I giving up in life because I am stuck in my own crap? Now, as you're thinking about that, click the link, go to tcp.jimfortin.com/unstuck. Again, and we'll drop the link in the show notes, tcp.jimfortin.com/unstuck. Download the program, you get started right away, and your life will start changing dramatically. When you apply what you're learning in that program, your life will start changing in very dramatic ways, very, very quickly. And as a matter of fact, in the next 9 days. Okay, back to the episode. So for most of us, we see money as a survival mechanism. And generally that could be true and may be true in some cases, but many of us don't need it for survival. We see it as a way to maintain our stories about what our life is, what our life isn't, and who we are. Let's say, for example, and I had a friend that did this. He's, I don't know, he's probably worth 10, $15 million. And he had some financial challenges a couple of years back. I was coaching him, but he had some challenges and he was worried about losing a lot of money. And the money represented to him the effort of his hard work. And he felt he had this story in his mind that if I lose my money and I don't have all this money, then I am not the kind of person in terms of my identity who I thought I was that created it. And it destabilizes my entire life. And that created a lot of fear for him because he also had the foundational belief that if you work hard, which I've talked about before, many places, hard work does not make you wealthy. It can, but it's not the hard work. It's the consciousness behind the hard work. And he had this belief at a foundational level that anything could be taken away from him. And if that happened, then he would have a lack of security in his life. And so many of us look at money in that kind of way. Many of us look at it in terms of survival. Now, what I want to point out when it comes to survival, the reality is no matter your money situation, you're probably still going to survive. Some of it's going to be more comfortable than other parts of it, but you're still going to survive. So generally speaking, the more money that you have is literally not a matter of survival and about survival. It's about your story, about who you are and what you are. So this friend that I was talking to, his story was because he was a multimillionaire, his story had multiple parts, meaning I am a person who can overcome things. I am a creator. I am resilient. One of his stories, I am a multimillionaire. And these are all stories. But then he was in an extreme amount of fear, anxiety, and worry a couple of years ago about losing his money. But it wasn't the money that was really worrying him, as it's the same way with most of us. It is our stories attached to the money and the stories we have about that. In preparation for this podcast, I went and checked I was going to say the mail. I didn't check the mail. I checked the news on a couple of 4 different networks, and I just wanted to see what the headlines were. Predictably in the US, a lot of it's about politics, blah, 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 nonsensical bullshit. But anyway, and that's all stories too. But anyway, I saw a story about Tom Selleck, the actor, the American actor. And he's been an actor in the US and well known since the 80s, Magnum PI. And he has this 65 acre ranch in Ventura, California. Now, I don't know his financial situation, but he said um, he was baffled why his TV series, which is from what I hear, I don't know anything about it, is a top ranked series. He's baffled about why it's being canceled. And what he was saying in this story that I was reading was, well, and he's 79 years old, if my series gets canceled and I'm 79, what's that going to do for my quality of life? Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, okay? But he said, I have enough money to take it easy for the rest of my lifetime, but maybe not on a 65-acre ranch in California. There right there is the glue in what I want to share with you. Notice your stories are tied to some kind of outcome. I'm sorry, your fears are tied to some kind of outcome about a story you tell yourself. So if you said, for example, only as an example, you know what? I could live in a cardboard box. And you really believe that, but you lived in a $2 million, $3 million, $4, $5, $10 million home, then if you left the home or lost the home, it wouldn't bother you. You might have some creature comfort loss, but overall, it's like, okay, it's just a house. But notice what happens. We tie what we possess to a story. Here's the thing. You hear me talking a lot. We tie what we possess to a story about who we are and what our life should be. And then we get into fear and anxiety that if I lose the money, which is the external things, then who am I going to be? Who am I going to be relative to the money? Who am I going to be relative to what I want to create and have in life? So ask yourself a question right now. What experience of life do you want? Now, notice the experience that many of you are living. You could say, I want an amazing experience of life. And I think all of us want to have a good experience of life, however you define that. But that's not what most people have. Most people have a miserable experience of life because of their interpretations and their beliefs and them generally, they're wanting something, security. And then they believe if I have the home, here's a pivotal point. If I have the home and I have A, B, C, D, and E, and I have all my bills paid and all my student loans paid off, then we can have that ultimate prize, which is the experience of life that we want, which will be the next episode. Then we have that ultimate belief, okay, now I paid off all my student loans. Now I have no mortgage. Now I have no XYZ. So because I got rid of those things related to money, I am now happy. So what we're really chasing is not money. What we're really chasing is we're chasing happiness and experience of life. But what I want to point out here, these stories that you might have, whether they be about happiness or or whatever, or the economy, let's go there. It doesn't matter. They're still stories that you're telling yourself. And you're telling yourself a story about what money is, and then dig deeper, what it is and what it is not. Or we tell ourselves what happiness is and what it's not. And I can't have it unless I have, if part of your story is, unless I have the money. So what we do is we have a couple of stories, and one is story A, and that's the first story is the economy. And then story B is what are our thoughts about story A? So story A, whatever's happening in the economy, candidly, even though I know, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I don't know what's true and not true. And I don't know what's sensationalized and what's fake news this day and age. And, you know, if you look at a lot of news, it's not news. Like back when I was growing up as a kid, you watched the CBS, ABC, NBC evening news. And it was basically, here's what happened. That's not the news anymore. The news is, here's what happened. And here's all of the bazillion opinion stories behind the news, you know? So if you look at, okay, so the story A is I can observe the economy and I observe A, B, C in the economy. But story B is, okay, I observe the economy, but I'm not happy about the economy because it represents A, B, C, D, and E to me. And I will have to give up A, B, C, D, and E. And if I give that up, then that means X, Y, Z about me. And then we feel bad about that. So again, notice it's all about happiness, but we're making it about money. But what I want to point out is that happiness and money are not related. They're separate things, because I've seen people with no money be extremely happy. And I've had clients of mine that are insanely wealthy. I mean, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and they're extremely unhappy. So if somebody dead broke can be happy, but somebody that has $100 million is unhappy, is it the accuracy of what's actually happening, or is it the story about it? So then what I want to look at is what I've alluded to is, okay, am I happy or not happy related to money? So then you want to look at, okay, happiness. And am I happy or am I in fear and insecurity? And if you're in fear and insecurity, a great question to ask yourself is, what do I have to let go of? Think about that. Because if you're in fear and anxiety about the economy, it's because you're holding on to something and you're holding on to a story. And what you want to ask yourself is, okay, what stories and what interpretations do I make about those stories that I have to let go of? And the deeper place to look, again, is that there's not a relationship between money. There might be, but I don't think there is. Um, I don't think there's a relationship between money and happiness, because I look at times in my life when I have been miserable and times when I've been really happy. And both times I've had a lot of money or not a lot of money, but I found myself in the same thing, whether I had a lot of money and I was happy or unhappy, or not a lot of money and happy or unhappy. My emotional state literally was my emotional state, but my emotional state was aligned to the externals. Now, this podcast is titled Transform Your Life from the Inside Out. It's not transform your life from the outside in. And when we tie our happiness to the externals, we're trying to actually create our happiness from the outside. It doesn't work that way. So ask yourself some questions. Is, how happy could I be if I didn't have any money? If I were dead broke, how happy would I be? How happy would I be? Reminds me of a current student of mine right now that's got great potential in one industry, but she wants to stay in another industry that she hates to some degree, even though she says she wants to leave, because of what that gives her in terms of money, in terms of what that means to her and the story she's making about that. So what she's doing, she's choosing an unhappy career over a happy career that makes her heart sing, Why? Because of the representation and the illusion of money in the middle of that representation. So look at life when you've been the happiest and think about that for a moment. Think about what makes you feel happy. And then what you want to look at is, okay, what makes me feel happy is a brand new home or a brand new Porsche or whatever. And then what we do is we say, well, I have that thing now, so therefore I'm happy. But what you're chasing is an emotional experience on the planet, and you're making your emotional experiences out of your interpretations, which is on the inside of you, which means you can always be happy. Many times we often think, well, I want XYZ. I want to be a movie star. And I've seen guys, I've coached people from all walks of life. I've coached famous people, millionaires, blah, blah, blah. And so many times we think we cannot be happy until we have a certain thing in our life. I had a friend of mine and he was in a very toxic relationship. And he would have been better off at least separating. The relationship was so toxic. But even though he was unhappy in the relationship, he wouldn't separate. Why? Because of his stories about what the relationship represented to him and didn't represent. Meaning, if he got separated, people would say, "Oh, you're bad at a relationship. Oh, you must be a bad partner, a bad husband. Oh, you're a failure and you can't manage relationships," whatever they might have been. So what I want you to look at, it's not the economy that's causing you fear and anxiety. It is you inside of you causing you fear and anxiety. And what you're looking for is with the economy, is to reinforce some story. Listen very carefully. To reinforce some story about what you think life is or it isn't, or some form of security. But security is an illusion. And I've said it many different times in the podcast. Kobe Bryant, that day he hopped on the helicopter, must have thought, oh, okay, I'm a very, very wealthy guy and I'm famous and people like me and I'm going to hop on my helicopter and I'm going to fly to XYZ destination. And he thought he had security. Well, how did that work out for him? He didn't have security. So the question is, do you want to hold the stories that you have that are causing you the fear and the anxiety about the economy, or do you want to be happy? Because your stories are all artificial. They're all made up. And we tell stories about everything financially, holding on to jobs, getting jobs, losing jobs, hating jobs, being in this kind of situation, this kind of finance, whatever. And none of those really affect the deeper mechanism of life. And that's the desire for an experience of life to be happy. So the formula is part of it. I'm not going to give it to you all now. I just want you to start thinking before the next episode. The formula to create more money is not external things. The formula, as I tell people in my coaching program, the transformational coaching program, is providing something that people want, that they will pay you for, and you feel good enough about charging for. That is the formula to becoming wealthy. And the number one thing that people will pay you for is the experience, because they're seeking happiness, the experience of making their life better. Because if their life is better, then guess what? They are happy in the illusion. They don't know what you're learning right here. So if you want to create more wealth in your life and more money in your life, so you can then experience what you think is more happiness based upon an external causation, then simply help people create more expansion, more growth in their own life. Because when they do that, they are happier. And when they're happier, they think they're having a better experience of life. Make sure you charge for that. And when you charge for that, now you're simultaneously creating a better experience of life for yourself. Another question is, ask yourself, all the fear and worry that I had prior to this episode, what was it all about? What was I hanging on to? What was I afraid to let go of? And for many people also, it's not afraid of letting go of something they have, or sorry, that they don't have yet. It's letting go of something they do have, because people will seek to protect what they have before they will reach for something new. And the way that I've started living the last several years is there's nothing to protect because I don't own any of it. It's in my name in this 3D bag of skin. It's in my name, my bank accounts while I'm on this planet, but I don't own anything on this planet. The only thing I own is what I brought with me, which is my consciousness, and that's what I'm going to leave with and what I've become. But you know what? I don't own a damn thing on this planet. By the way, neither do you. You own nothing on this planet. So what we want to do here is you want to start thinking about, okay, is it really the externals that make me happy? And when I have the externals, I'm only happy when I have the externals and what I think they mean about me. Or is happiness, and I've said this phrase before, is happiness an inside job? And then ask yourself, what kind of emotional states does the abundance of externals create in me? And notice the emotional states. You're using something outside of you to create the emotional state inside of you. You're using something outside of you to create the emotional state of happiness, which proves that we think that happiness comes from the external things, but happiness only comes internally, no matter what's going on externally. Ponder that. So your transformational takeaway, and then I'm going to pick up and go even deeper next week on the concept of happiness. Because if you look at everything in your life is about a progression or desire to create happiness in your life, however you define that. Whether it be the Porsche or the home or the car or the money or the business, many times we're not even recognizing it. We will say, I will be happy when I move across the country. I will be happy when I have a boyfriend or girlfriend. I will be happy when my marriage is better. I will be happy when it's something external, not recognizing we're tying stories about who we think we are to those externals. So therefore, when the externals are awry or they're jacked up or whatever, then our stories about who and what we are become jacked up. Then we allow ourselves to feel bad about that. So we allow the externals to determine our feelings and how we feel about ourselves. So right now, your takeaway is this. It's not the externals. It's not the anxiety that most of you probably been focusing on. It's not the economy. It's your internal representations and stories about the economy. And if you want to change your experience of the economy, which by the way, I don't know if it's true or not, I've read it a bazillion times, more people become wealthy in bad economic times than good economic times. And if that's the case, then why would you care if it's a bad economy or a good economy? Because you can make money on either side. And if money's going to make you happy, make it in the good economy, make it in the bad economy. It doesn't matter because those are externals. So your takeaway, are you going to let the externals control how you feel and how you feel? Because what we're all wanting is happiness. Are you going to let the externals take your happiness away from you and recognize that the externals are creating stories and your stories are affecting your level of happiness? So in the next episode, we're going to dig into be happy. I've said it before, be happy all the time. And the number one way to be happy, I'll just give you a little tidbit here, is lack of attachment, letting go. Because the things you hold on to are the things you create the stories about and your things you're afraid to lose. But if you let go of the attachments, you might want to ask yourself, okay, here's a final little transformational takeaway. All right, I'm unhappy about X, Y, Z in my life. I'm unhappy about my money, the economy, my marriage, or whatever. Sit with this question. What am I attached to? Think about that. What am I attached to? Okay, so thank you for listening, and I'll catch you over on the next episode. And we are going to talk about being happy all the time, no matter what happens in the world. And that is a powerful place to be. Okay, make it a great week, and I'll catch you a little later. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you soon. Bye bye.